Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq. Joining me is Adam Jackson, CEO of Braintrust, to discuss competing for talent in the tech space and how freelancers are benefiting businesses. Adam, it's great to meet with you. Welcome to Trade Talks.
Hey, thanks for having me, Jill.
And Adam, why is it so difficult competing for talent in the technology space?
So, Jill, when 10, 15 years ago, it was just tech companies that needed tech talent. Now, every company is expected to act and innovate at the speed of a tech company. And so they're all competing for the same people now.
And how does hiring freelancers benefit businesses? And are there any challenges to that?
Yeah, absolutely. So freelancing opens up the opportunity for businesses to get the technical talent they need. So if you're a developer or a designer or a product manager who builds software, typically like you'd live in San Francisco or New York, and you would go to an office like at Facebook or somewhere in Mountain View, and that was like what people needed, right? It was with bigger companies like Nestle and Porsche. Like Nestle's a consumer packaged goods company that all of a sudden needs to be a software company. Porsche is a car company that has more computer code than a lot of other products. And so what freelancing does is it opens up the Mountain Views and the New York Cities of the world, so those technical pools can be accessed by the rest of the country. And the opposite is true. Really talented people sitting in places like St. Louis or Atlanta or Munich are able to serve companies all over the world. So freelancing just kind of like flattens a playing field and makes it more efficient for both sides.
And it certainly does. And we've learned how to operate virtually in these remote environments as a result of COVID-19, which diversifies the workforce. You just don't have to be in these expensive bi-coastal cities, as you had pointed out. So we understand what the role of freelancers are in the economy today. What do you think it's going to be like in the future?
So I think this freelancing, before COVID, and you brought up a really important point. COVID really changed the entire rules of the game here, because before COVID, companies, big companies that are non-tech we'd always say, look, you need to go outside of your four walls. Like you can't hire all these engineers in St. Louis where you have your development center. And they'd sort of like wink and nod and say like, yeah, well, we'll look at that someday. And then the lockdown happens almost a year ago this week, and everyone's offices were closed, right? And so, after everyone paused all their projects. We weren't sure if the stock market was going to zero or whatever. And then a couple months later, everyone's like, okay, well, we're all still here. We need to get back to work. Oh, but we still can't get into our offices, right? So remote teams, distributed engineering and design teams became the new normal, right? It's not just like this, a nice to have, we'd really like you in the office kind of thing. It's like now it's our only choice. And so what it's taught all of these companies to do, many clients on Braintrust, many companies around the world, what it's taught them is this is the new way we're doing things now. Don't expect people to come into the office. Don't expect that kind of the old way of doing things. And so it's opened up this whole new opportunity for labor, right? And so I think life has gotten easier and better for many information workers, for managers at these big companies. It's gotten a lot easier to get things built. Freelancing allows companies to spin up and spin down, very flexibly. And so this is the new normal, right? I don't think it goes back.
And Adam, when you think about security, the access that you have as, let's say, a full-time employee relative to a freelancer. I mean, I started off as a contractor at Nasdaq, and there was different accessibility that I had to certain areas of the company. How do you ensure for security, particularly in the tech space where freelancers have a lot of access to very sensitive materials?
Absolutely. Look, this is a critical point. It's something we talk about with IT managers every day. Security in 2021 is all about what can you access via your internet connection, whether you're an employee, a contractor, a temp, it doesn't matter. Everyone works off an internet connection. And whether that internet connection is in your offices in New York, or whether it's at your home in Connecticut or wherever you are, an internet connection is internet connection. And so what companies have had to do, and some of them have done a better job than others, as you see all these breaches, every month we hear about more security breaches. But if the companies now need to make sure their intellectual property is secure on the internet, regardless of whether that person's accessing from in the office or from their home. And so bringing your own device, using your own phone to check your email, using your own laptop to get work done, that's all now part of the office for these guys. And so most companies have done a reasonably good job at this. What's good about that, though, is there used to be this monster distinction between, okay, full-time employees have access to different things and like can only sit in this corner of the office because this is the secure corner. That's all gone away, right? Because now everyone who touches company property or company intellectual property needs to pass these security barriers. So what's good about it now, that was a big lift for IT folks, and it, made the IT security industry a monster one. But what's good about that now is you can basically get anybody in and out of these things, whether they're employees or not, right? So it made the freelancing world a little more approachable for companies.
So to wrap up here, tell us where Braintrust fits in the ecosystem, how the model works, who some of your clients are.
Absolutely. So Braintrust is a global talent network that connects mostly tech people, so programmers, designers, product managers, project managers, with big companies, mostly Fortune 1000s, that have insatiable demand for this talent, but have been kind of traditionally losing the war for tech talent, right? If you're a technical person, you're at Facebook, Apple, Google. And if you're gonna dedicate yourself to full time, in a lot of these people are actually pulling out of full time and becoming freelancers, and they're happy to, in exchange for that freedom that they get as freelancers, they can now do work for Stanley Black & Decker or Porsche or Nestle or Coursera or Nextdoor. These are companies that use Braintrust. So nothing I just said there is new, right? That's like staffing agencies have been doing this for years. What's new about Braintrust is that we are not some big profit-seeking, fee-maximizing corporation. We're actually owned and controlled by our talent members. New model, right? And so because of that new ownership model, we have no incentive to charge ourselves big fees. We are the talent, right? So our fee structure is very different. We charge 0% fees to talent and a flat 10% to clients. What that does, and that's like almost an order of magnitude less than what, like a big consulting firm would charge you or a big agency. So what that does is it allows the best and brightest talent to come over to Braintrust and say, look, I'm not sharing my income anymore, right? Like, this is my money. I'm keeping the value I create. So we end up getting the best people. And then company budgets on the client side can go like 2 to 3, 4 times further, right? So let's say Porsche has $1 million to develop a project, that they're going to get just about $1 million worth of work on Braintrust rather than $400,000 worth of work, with some agency. So we call it the user-owned economy. It's a new model, it's a new ownership structure enabled by a new technology, which is blockchain.
And that's interesting. And what's next for Braintrust?
So we just had our first $1 million month in February, meaning we sent $1 million worth of business out to talent coming in through clients. The thing's grown faster than we can keep up with it right now. Because all these companies are now the Fortune 1000 are all remote now, right? So they all of a sudden need remote teams. And so we're just trying to keep up with that growth and, keeping our heads down.
All right, Adam, appreciate the insight. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks, and thanks for joining me. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.
Thanks, Jill.